Our next speaker, Dr. Tomas Brenner, is from ETH Zurich. He's Managing Director of the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab, ETH Zurich's incubator for pre- and early-stage deep tech startups. Switzerland is an interesting country to compare Austria with in terms of size, inhabitants, and culture. This is probably also one reason why ETH Zurich is already a role model for Austria. The blueprint for the FFG spin-off fellowships comes from ETH Zurich, and Dr. Tomas Brenner is also in the FFG jury in Austria. Welcome, Tomas. It's a pleasure to having you here and hear from you personally what you have accomplished during the last 15 years of spin-off activities at ETH Zurich.
Thank you very much for the nice introduction. Hello, everybody. This is Tomas Brenner. As was said, I'm from ETH in Zurich, and I think we are very comparable to Austria in terms of size and capacity. So I think this can be very helpful for you to understand how we achieved in the past 15 years our success for our startups. Here are the key numbers, just to give you an order of magnitude. Where we started, we are founded 1855, 20,000 students at our technical university, 550 professors in 16 faculties, roughly 10,000 employees, 21 Nobel laureates, and we are number 6 worldwide and number 1 continental Europe in the QS ranking in 2022. So the third mission is actually anchored in, you wouldn't believe it, but there is an ETH Swiss law about ETH from 1991. I'm not going to read all the points here, but basically ETH has the mandate to educate, to research. This we do with our professors and departments, and to exploit the research findings. This is very general. I will elaborate in a second. And this we do with the Tech Transfer Office, and the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab is part of this Tech Transfer Office. So technology transfer, ETH technology is inside many products. I'd just like to give you the key numbers. We had last year more than 200 research contracts with the industry. 185 invention and software disclosures, so 100 patents and 62 license agreements for last year. So let me show you or explain you how the culture of entrepreneurship works at ETH. So the classical path where you get basically students from high school, and they go classically, we educate them, they spend 4 years or 6 years at ETH, bachelor, master's, PhD, and then they go, we dispatch them as qualified engineers into industry. So that has been the classical path. That was during my time also the case, but now there are many other ways at ETH to develop into entrepreneurship. So the third mission, I'd first like to show you a story or give you a story here, and then show you a more elaborate picture. So as you can imagine, during master thesis, PhDs, postdocs, there are a lot of ideas coming out of there. There are focus projects, there's the Entrepreneur Club. So many ideas, students are full of the ideas, they learn new, they are not yet so formed, and they can come up with new ideas. And this is where basically we support them as students in different initiatives. I will show you in a second the slide, which initiatives this is. This is very important. And then they grow up, and after completion of such a project, they need to have the possibility to move on also at the university. And this is an example that I would like to show you. I hope you hear the sound also. This is a wheelchair basically, which was developed in a focus project from bachelor students. They were given the task to build a wheelchair which is capable of going up and down the stairs. And as you can see, it balances also on 2 wheels, so it's like a Segway, and it has the possibilities to go up the stairs, as you can see here, but also to elevate the chair so that the person is on eye side with a standing person. So as you can imagine, it would have really been a pity to stop the project right there. I think it's important to continue projects like that and to give them the opportunity to advance them until they are ready for investments. So this is where our Pioneer Fellowship, which was copied to a certain degree in Austria, and if something is copied, as you know, we are very proud of that we were copied, and where these projects come into the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab, where we can support them. They'll spend with us a year, 1.5 years, and then they can, usually they form a spin-off company during this time, and then they go out in the field and they have their own startups. They go to technoparks and other incubators, and eventually they are CEOs of and executives of larger organizations. So this is the story, basically very simple, but let me show you a little bit the ecosystem at ETH that we have. So this is quite a little bit a dense slide. I want to lead you through it. Here you can imagine, here you can imagine our 20,000 students which have the possibilities to be entrepreneurial. And at the end of this process, in this funnel, this got things down very much. So we start with 20,000, that's our full pool of students. At the end, at ETH, we get roughly 20 to 30 spin-off companies, and we get entrepreneurial, alumni from ETH. So let me just show you some of the initiatives we have at ETH, because the ETH iLab, which I'm heading, is not the only one. So let me lead you quickly through it. We have the ETH Student Project House, where basically students get support with their own projects. They can come with an idea and they can get support to build their prototypes. I mentioned before the project you saw before, Focus Project in the last year of the bachelor. Students can replace classes have participated in an interdisciplinary project. That's how it works, obviously, also in industry. So they learn many more skills than just the subject matter. They have to organize themselves, they have to fund themselves, they have to do the project plan. So these projects, usually a professor gives a task for this group of people, for the team of 8 to 12, and they have to accomplish something. As I said, the previous example. Then we have a chair of entrepreneurship. That's Bart Clarice. He joined us 4 years ago, and he is promoting or doing education at ETH in entrepreneurship. We have student organizations such as the ETH Entrepreneur Club. They organize a lot of events. They have more than 3,000 students, which are part of the Entrepreneur Club. ETH Juniors, it's basically an outplacement organization of students to the industry. They work with industry partners. The next in the value chain is the ETH AI Center. Here, students with artificial intelligence projects can go there, apply, they get support, but also some seed funding to test their ideas, to have some money. We have ETH for Development. That's a similar initiative, but it's for developing country, for the global south, where students get basically 10 or 20K support so that they can develop a project for develop a product or a prototype, minimum viable product for developing countries. And then somewhere in the middle here, there is the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab. I'll tell you in a second more about it. And we give these Pioneer Fellowship grants to 2 successful candidates. It's a very competitive process. Requirements are completed master or PhD, maybe postdoc. But we don't want to keep them very long. We support them for a few months, 12 to 18 months. Then they move on to other incubators like the ETH Business Incubation Center Switzerland, ETH Zurich with different with projects in robotics. ESA, excuse me, is obviously for aerospace. They can go to the Technopark and so forth. So this is what, within this funnel, this is what happens at ETH. Outside of this funnel, you can see many other things which I cannot go into, which are being offered in Switzerland. We have in Switzerland a very rich startup entrepreneurship system or ecosystem. So we ask founders what would they need. I will go quickly through it. This might be all obvious to you. Of course, funding. We feel it's very important to give them in the beginning non-dilutive funding so that investors don't take half of the company of a great idea just because they don't have the money. So non-dilutive funding to bridge this valley of death. They would have wished, or they wish, a peer home for peer support and also peer pressure, where they can exchange their ideas. They wish, of course, coaching from role models. We have serial entrepreneurs at the IE Lab and other coaches which are very experienced, which have this entrepreneurship training or entrepreneurship experience. They wish to, or they need to be connected. They cannot work in a vacuum. So we connect them with all ETH entities. We have more than 460 ETH spin-offs so far. We connect them to investors, start to the whole Swiss startup ecosystem, coaches, expert service providers, and so forth. We educate them also with a certificate of advanced studies. I'll tell you in a second more about that. And yep, that's it. We have also a LinkedIn platform, a LinkedIn type platform where they can exchange with each other. So what is this valley of death? Everybody talks about it. So obviously the long valley of death is going through these phases of product development until you can generate revenue and are cash flow positive. And I have divided this in 7 phases, starting from basic research, apply research, then proof of concept, prototype, product development, alpha series growth, and then finally you generate revenue. So as you know, in the early phases where ideas generated research, there is public funding available, and at the later stages there is private funding available from business angels or other investors and VCs and equity and banks. But there is really this gap which we are trying to fill at ETH. So we are filling a gap which is not filled somewhere else. So this gap is basically the public-private gap, where the projects are too advanced to be researchy, so they don't get the research funding, but they are still too risky, too unknown to get investments from risk capital investors. Risk capital investors take risks, but they are not gambling. So this is where we come in with our Pioneer Fellowship and with the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab, where they get the support, where we basically help them to bridge this gap. So I've mentioned now many times the Pioneer Fellowship. Let me show you in this slide, what is it actually? It's 18 months support with 150K sweet money. Funding is financed by generous donations. It's basically to promote ETH talents. So we do not give this to companies or spin-offs. This is really a promotion of ETH talents. And the goal, our goal at ETH, is to move the research results from ETH to the market. What do they get? They get support and access to the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab. And these Pioneer Fellows have also a host professor, which supports them with ETH infrastructure, with labs and access to the technical groups. Let me show you on the next slide briefly the process these students go, or these Pioneer Fellows go through. It's basically leaned from the industry. Basically, they have a pitch day here where they get accepted or not accepted. But if they get accepted to the program, they go then through these gate reviews, where we look every 4 to 6 months. We look what progress did the project make. We set goals for the next 6 months and review the goals which we set 6 months ago. And we do this 3 times until we get to the final review, and where they basically complete the project. And hopefully by this time they have started the company and can go on their own and raise capital. What I always say, we at the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab basically make them investment ready, because they come to us as researchers. They are excellent researchers, but they have very little understanding of startups, and they have to develop this in this in these 18 months. So the next to the project, or aside of the project that they are doing, I think the biggest how to say that, the biggest thing that they get is basically the entrepreneurial learning that they get, and the understanding for entrepreneurship and for business. This shows the projects which were successful, which did go through the Pioneer Fellowship. We had so far 100 projects, and from this 61 projects or spin-off companies were founded. Here you can see that the Pioneer Fellowship projects are very diverse. If you look here, we have anybotics, so basically from robotics to 3D cell cultures. We have all the projects, because we do not select. Any project can apply from ETH, professor or department. This is a little bit the track record over the last 10 years. The program was established 2010. So far 100, and this happened beginning of this year. The 100th Pioneer Fellowship was given. We have currently about 18 Pioneer Fellows active, 62 companies. It changes every month, so here's the newer number. 62 companies were founded, and the conversion from a Pioneer Fellow to a spin-off is 2 out of 3. Okay, so now let me quickly guide you through the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab. We are basically ETH's deep tech incubator. We have 48 working spaces, 42 lab benches at 2 locations, about 500 square meters. This is very small at the moment compared to other technical universities of this size. I will show you in a second. We have much bigger plans, and they will develop in the next few years. We provide the coaching, which I mentioned before, that they need. We have serial entrepreneurs within our team, which have the entrepreneurship gene in them, and which can do excellent coaching. We provide the training, which I mentioned. We organize a lot of events. We do also networking with our Pioneer Fellows, so that we can get in touch with all of these other groups. Okay, so this is the team. We are very small, but don't underestimate us. So this guy was the founder, CSO of Covagen, Dragan Garabulovsky. He's working only part-time with us. He coaches about 4 or 5 projects in the biotech area. This gentleman here is Michael Stucki, also a co-founder of Glycro Vaccine, CFO there. He's an excellent coach. And these ladies do administrative and managing the biosafety, the biosafety lab. About myself, I've also a background in startups. I've worked more than 12 years in the US, so I'm very familiar with the US scene. And I have supported there as a venture capitalist many startups, also in interims positions. I was also at the industry. Aside from our team, we have 33 coaches also. At the moment, this number is increasing quickly. They work pro bono, support these projects on an as-needed basis, and we have agreements with 17 service providers, more in the legal, financial, marketing areas. Okay, so let me tell you about this CAS, the Certificate of Advanced Studies in Entrepreneurial Leadership in Technology Ventures. It's a long name, I know. So it's a continued education in entrepreneurship. It's unique in that sense that it's really focused for deep tech ventures. It's not just a continued education for general, but it's really specific for deep tech. Target audience are postdocs, pioneer fellows, and early career professionals in technology and in business. Registration is once per year. The tuition is typically 10K. The Swiss francs you can translate roughly euro. The teaching format is very interesting. Due to COVID, we decided from beginning we want to do a blended format in English, and the degree is the certificate, as I mentioned. It's a blended format. I don't want to get into details here. I see the time is going very fast. It's a blended format where we have online courses, and then we do also on-site. Currently, the on-site can unfortunately not happen, so these are interactive workshops also online. What is the cohort of the structure? Currently, we have 20 participants in the program. 14 of them have their own technology. 6 participants are managerial or research backgrounds. And we have 5 female and 15 males, and very international, as you can see. Now I'd like to share on the next slide the exciting news, which I told you about. This is our campus. We have 2 campi, one in the center. We cannot grow in the center of Zurich because Zurich is very dense, but this is Hönkeberg. For those of you who have been to Switzerland, to Zurich, know where that is. That's up on the hill. And there we are going to realize, here where it's shown, the red box here we are going to realize an exciting project, basically a new building with 6,000 square meters, from which 1,500 square meters will be reserved for entrepreneurship, for the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Lab, for the Entrepreneur Club, for the Pioneer Fellows, for spin-offs. Very excited about that. This was the competition we had, and this is the rendering that you can see of this building. It's very light flooded, it's very light, a lot of common areas, so we are very excited about this. So now let me guide you in the next few slides, which might be very interesting for you, and I think this is why we got the invitation to participate here. Let me guide you a little bit through the license agreements that we have with our spin-offs, that you in Austria can see how we deal with our spin-offs so that they can become successful. So in order to become a spin-off at ETH and use the technology, you must have a license agreement. And these license agreements, typically it's value basically for the object of the license, and it has some upfront payments to basically recoup the patent costs. It might have some milestone payments, and then sub-license fees are in the order of 10 and 30%. And then we typically do 1 to 5% of net sales royalties. As you can see, the license fees are credited against the royalties. It can be negotiated, but it must not be that case, but it can be negotiated that instead of the license, we do a mix of equity or phantom stock as a part of the license agreement, so that the license doesn't become too expensive. And we are also open to discuss, to basically sell the IP to the company once there is an exit, or there is a merger, or there is a threshold revenue achieved. So about the license agreements, about the equity deals. So we have basically 2 cases. One are license cases. where we basically take 2 to 5% of stock options, or we take phantom stock options in the range of 2 to 5%. This is always the case when there is not an investor part of the first round, so when the founders found with their own money. But if there is an investment case, that means if an investor from the founding is part on the table, ETH takes in the range of 5 to 10% from the shares in case that the investor plays an essential role, and we have an anti-dilution clause up to a certain value, threshold value. So far, ETH has, or currently ETH has 41, a portfolio of 41 equity participations. Also very important are the spin-off guidelines for the professors. We recommend that the professor takes the role which has the least potential for conflict. This is basically the scientific advisor. They can take an executive role or become board of directors. However, they need the permission of the president of ETH. We cap their maximum ownership of the spin-off to 20%. If there are multiple professors, to 30%. But even this number is very, very high. We usually like them to have an ownership of less than that, maybe 5% or even less, or ideally no ownership. This is basically it, what I wanted to show here. It is possible that these professors do research projects with the spin-off. It has just to be very clear, and they have to avoid conflicts of interest. So what are the conditions to become an ETH spin-off? ETH know-how or patent or software must be present. At least one of the founders must be an ETH student, an employee, an alumnus or alumni. The company must be founded less than 2 years, not more than 2 years ago. Soft factors are business idea and team must be entrepreneurial, but these are really soft factors. So what do they get for this? They get basically office spaces and access to the infrastructure for up to 3 years. They receive limited consulting and coaching, and they get this, the spin-off label, which is a quality mark, which makes it easier for them to raise capital. Okay, I'd like to show you how successful we are. I'm in the last few slides, in the last 2 slides here. So these are, we performed a performance study in 2020 highlighting the contribution of the Swiss ETH startups to the ecosystem. Let me show you that about 5,000 jobs were created from these startups. The equity value is roughly 4.5 billion. The revenue is in the order of almost $1 billion. And we had so far 41 exits with license agreements. This shows the statistics. We have roughly 30% of, 30 spin-offs per year. Now with Corona, a little bit less maybe, and a third of them are coming from the Pioneer Fellowship. I'd like to skip this slide. I'd like to show you just one more slide, which I find very important. Aside from ETH, we have InnoSwiss. This is the innovation agency in Switzerland. The innovation agency supports startups with about 12 million, with education, with coaching, with organizing events. Then about a bridge program, which is similar to the Pioneer Fellowship. And there are research projects of 167 million, supported in the tune of 167 million Swiss francs. This is the very last slide. It shows basically that ETH contributes about 1/3, 27, about 1/3 of the overall, deep tech startups from Switzerland. Okay, with this, I'd like to close here showing you this exciting slide here about how much money was invested in Switzerland and how many investment rounds, and ETH contributes 50% of that. I see that I have to finish here, so I thank you for your attention, and I'm now open for questions.
Thank you, Thomas, very much. We're over time, so we have a very quick questions for you. One question was, maybe you have data on that. If not, we can just keep it then on survival rate of your spin-offs. Do you maybe know how many of them exist after a period of 5 years?
Yeah, the survival rate, thank you for that question. I didn't have time to show it, is in the order of 92, 94%. It's very high, the survival rate. The selection happens before that. Okay. So the selection happens through the excellent students we have, through the support we give them, through the excellent technology. And once they make these hurdles, they have a very high survival rate. Absolutely mind-blowing. I think that's the top in the international context. Congratulations. One question, you mentioned 61 spin-offs from your ETH and 40 exits. Are these 40 exits from those 61 spin-offs? No. These are, excuse me, I did go maybe too fast. These are two separate things. So 61 spin-off companies from the Pioneer Fellowships. As I mentioned to you, we have given 100 Pioneer Fellowships in the last 10 years. From this, we have 61 spin-offs generated. So these companies were able to raise follow-on financing or follow-on capital and continue. 41 exits means with the spin-off license agreements, we had 41, we have a portfolio of licenses, and we had 41 exits so far from this portfolio. Maybe just excuse me if I didn't get this information in the course of your presentation, but maybe it's a stupid question, I'm not sure, but is that a relevant revenue stream for your university in terms of financing your infrastructure in general? We know that Stanford and American universities earn a lot of money on their patents. Excellent idea. Excellent question, not idea. Excellent question. Yes. So no, it's not. And it's also not ETH's goal. Our goal is to carry these technologies out to the society, to benefit the society. TTO at ETH is part of the university. We are not monetary driven. We want to recoup our costs for next generation of spin-offs, but it's not our mission to generate revenue from it, because then we would have very different terms, as you know, from other universities. Okay. So basically get these technologies out. I have one mean question. Which is your most favorite spin-off or most spectacular spin-off that you've been involved in? Oh, well, this is neither mean nor... I mean, there are so many great spin-offs. I mean, I think it would be... I mean, we have spin-offs which are unicorns. That's, of course, spectacular. But there are many smaller spin-offs, and if you look, or companies, and if you look at that, they contribute as much to the society as a unicorn. So, but the most known one, if you ask me, the two most known ones are probably Get Your Guide. That's probably the most known one. This which helps with traveling in cities. The other one is a chip company, MuBlocks, which makes positioning systems. So these are, and Sensorion is another one. So, but many more very cool startups.
And maybe also one last question from my side. If you look at the best of the best, are these academic teams or are these mixed teams with experts from a business and industry?
Well, this is probably a rhetorical question because it's always mixed teams. Always large and mixed teams are always the most successful.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you so much for being with us, taking time, and for insights in the ETH. Thank you so much, Thomas. Ciao.